I'm Ilyan St-Hilaire, and in this technical video, we're going to talk about mesh cores and mesh command. So Mesh Central has a very interesting architecture that basically runs JavaScript over different components, and then you can quickly change the behavior of Mesh Central by editing and changing that JavaScript. And so you don't have to recompile the native code like the C code or so on the agent and many of the components. So I want to take a look at a little bit how this works, and it will give you a flavor of the architecture of Mesh Central and some of the kind of the beauty of it. So I'm going to start with a slide here, and these are the three main components of Mesh Central. You have on the left the browser, you have the server, and you have the agent. And of course there's other agents, there's Assistant, and there's the Android agent on the phone. But I'm going to talk here about the main agent, the one that we run on Linux, Windows, and Mac OS. And so these three components, surprisingly, and this may not be known to many people, they all run JavaScript. Now, of course, the browser runs JavaScript inside the sandbox. The server runs Node.js, so it runs JavaScript, but basically inside an unrestricted sandbox, the Node sandbox. And then you have the agent, which is a native executable that you run, that we compile and run on different platforms, and you have to compile it on ARM or on an x86 64-bit, 32-bit, and so on. But it has its own JavaScript runtime called Ducktape, and so it's a very small runtime that will run JavaScript, and it's wonderful. So now the reason we do this is because we want JavaScript running on all three components, so that then we can do JSON exchange, we can have a database that's like Mongo, and it just simplifies everything. You have just WebSockets, on both sides and so on. So the Mesh agent runs JavaScript. When you first install the Mesh agent, it doesn't actually have much JavaScript in it. It has some that comes with native, but when you first launch it, it will connect back to the server, and the server will push what we call a mesh core. This is and I have a slide here on that. This is a block of JavaScript that the agent will then run. So the agent is not that smart when it starts and you install it for the first time, but as soon as it connects to the server, then it gets much smarter, because the server will push like the brains of the agent onto the agent, which is all, and of course the brain is in JavaScript. So I want to demonstrate how this works and kind of the beauty of it. So I have my trusty developer server right here, and let's see, I just released a version on NPM. So that's my server that I'm running, and right here. And so of course I can click on a device like this guy here, and you can do remote desktop and connect to the device and so on and so forth. So that's cool, but you may notice that there's this thing called console here, and I can type help. Now, if you need to be administrator, of course, and you have commands that you can run on the agent. Now, this commands here, and the console, and the terminal, and the files, all these are actually created by the JavaScript run code that is running on the agent. And so when you type help here, it's actually JavaScript code running on the remote agent that answers back with these commands. Okay, so the first thing I want to show you is how you can tell the agent to clear its JavaScript. So you can go in the agent action right here, and you can say clear the core. So this will clear the JavaScript off of the remote agent. So I'm going to click OK, and what you're going to see here is that tabs are going to disappear. Now, in this case, because this machine is AMT, it still has desktop, but the hardware desktop and the hardware terminal. But I'll pick another machine like this Raspberry Pi here, and it has, oh, actually this one only has terminal. This one, there you go. So this one has a desktop, terminal, files, okay? I'm gonna go to console, click and say clear the core, and then you'll see the desktop, terminal, and files tabs all disappear, because this agent is no longer capable of doing any of these features. Also, if I type help, it's not answering anymore. And that's because the agent gets the command and there's no JavaScript running to do anything with those received commands. So basically, the agent has no brain. It can still connect to the server, but that's and authenticate to the server. But that's pretty much all it can do. It can also self-update the native and of course, receive a mesh core. So now, when you click on action, you can clear the core. You can upload the default core. So this is the JavaScript that by default should run on this device. And if I, of course, do that, you'll see this piece of information which indicates basically the fingerprint of what core I'm running. And then when I type help, I get the commands. I can also do desktop terminal files and so on. We have alternative cores. We have a recovery core. You can click on that, say OK, and type help. And so the recovery core is like a very small JavaScript, and it's used for debugging. So if you have an agent that's misbehaving or something goes wrong, we can send the recovery core, and then you only get the terminal, you get files, but you don't get remote desktop, and you get a limited set of commands with that. But the recovery core is nice because it does allow native update of the agent and kind of debugging. And there's also the tiny core, which we don't use very much, but this has nothing, basically no terminal, no files, no desktop, and just very, very few commands, like versions. Yeah, that's pretty much the 4 commands that it supports. So it's very, very, very small. Okay. So that is the different cores. And of course, usually you'll have the default core running, and that will give you all the features of the agent. Now, let's suppose I want to go and change the behavior of the agent. I want to edit some feature. I want to add my own custom command here or something. Well, I'm going to go in Visual Studio. Let's see, right here. And inside Visual Studio, inside the Mesh Central node, the Node Modules Mesh Central folder, there will be a subfolder called Agents. And this contains all the agents, binaries and install packages and Mesh Central Router and so on. But one file that's interesting is the meshcore.js right here. So I'm going to double click on that. And this is the file, this is the JavaScript that is pushed onto the remote agent. So it has like a whole bunch of code for doing remote desktop and so on and so forth. So what I'm going to do is, actually, before I do this, I am going to go in the agents folder, and I have a batch file, compress remove, and this will remove the minified version of the mesh core and these modules here, so that when we're going to push the mesh core, we're going to push the unminified version now, because the minified versions don't exist. Okay, so then the thing I'm going to do is search for like help. And you see here there's a thing called process console command. This is the command that's run, or the function that's run when you type any command. So when you type, some junk here, it says unknown command. Well, at the end of the switch statement, you'll see unknown command. Or if you type help, it says available commands in the list here, and you'll see available commands is right there. So if I type hello right there, save it, then I go into agent action and upload the default core again. It will upload, and you'll see the signature just changed. And then if I type help, you'll see the hello here. So what I just did right now in like 10 seconds is I modified the JavaScript that the agent runs, pushed it on the agent, and immediately got it to run and show the result. So, and then I'll go back here and edit this back. There it goes. And then I can upload that again. So this will be the original one without any changes, and then I can type help, and you can see, boom, there's no help. Also, another thing to note is if I type, I don't know, hello again, and I'll type hello ABC. Now, let's suppose I want to update all my agents. So all the agents that are online here, I want to update them all with the new core. One thing you can do is just reset the server. So as soon as you reset the server will pick up the new mesh core, and it will notice that all the agents have the wrong one, and so it will push the new mesh core to all the agents. So now if I click on any device, go to the console, type help, you'll see the hello here. So I can click on this guy, help. There it goes. The hello is on all of the machines. But usually for debugging or whatever, you just edit it, do whatever you need, click upload, it updates it, and then you have type help, and it's correct. Okay, so this is a demonstration of editing and uploading the new mesh core onto the agent. I wanted to show you another trick. This is a little bit connected, you'll see in a minute. I'm going to create a new temporary folder. So I'm going to go here. So I have a directory c:temp here, and I'm going to put this aside, my server aside, and I'm going to show you how mesh command is actually built. So what I'm going to do is go into, let's see, I'm going to go into Mesh Central here, and to agents, and the agents folder, and I'm going to grab the meshcommand.js file. I'm going to put this in my temporary folder. Then I'm going to take the signed agent in 64-bit. So this is actually the mesh agent. It has a weird name on the server, but that's you could just type it meshagent.exe. There you go. And then there's inside modules mesh command. There's a bunch of extra modules here. I'm just going to paste them there. Okay, so I have the Mesh Central agent, I have the meshcommand.js, and I have a bunch of extra modules. I am going to open myself a command prompt, go to that temp folder. Okay, and then, of course, if I type mesh agent alone and say enter, this is the normal mesh agent that you're used to. Okay, so I'm going to close that. But if I type mesh agent space meshcommand.js, then instead of running as an agent, it runs as a command line interpreter for like a duct tape JavaScript runtime. And now it runs, and becomes mesh command. So actually mesh command is just the agent that we merged all these modules onto the EXE, and we pack it into another EXE, but it's actually the mesh agent plus just JavaScript. And you download that and run it. In fact, in Linux, what we do is the server will do this at runtime. When you click and you say, I want to download an ARM 32-bit version of mesh command, what the server will do is it will grab the agent that runs 32-bit ARM, it will take all the JavaScript it needs, pack it, append it to the executable, and then serve that to you. And it will do that very, very quickly. So this is why mesh command runs in so many different platforms. It's because it's just a mesh agent executable also running JavaScript. So what's nice is that now I can let's suppose I delete all this. I'm going to delete everything except the mesh agent. There you go. And I can create a new file. I'm going to call it test.js. There you go. I'm going to open Visual Studio. Okay. I'm going to edit this test.js. And I'm just going to say console.log. I'm going to say hello world. There you go. And I think I have to do process.exit like this, if I recall correctly, otherwise it won't quit. So okay, now I have just this little hello world. Then I can go here, type meshagent.test.js, and there you go, hello world, that's it. So, and then of course, if you go a little bit deeper, you can just append in a very specific way, you can append this JavaScript to the mesh agent, and then you have like this hello world executable that you can give to somebody. So that's how we do, this is how we do mesh command. So anyway, hopefully that was useful. It just gives you a little bit of overview of how we make it so that the agent is very quick to update. We don't need to update the agent binary very often. A lot of the new features, we can just change the mesh core on the agent. So thank you very much. Have a great day.